Settle down to a new weekday look, 60 minutes at 6, starting with Granada Tonight from January the 6th. Settle down for an evening of comedy with Russ Abbott.
Waiter, is the tuna dolphin friendly?
Oh yes, used to share a flat with Flipper.
Strike It Rich with Michael Barrymore.
I could be a vet, couldn't I?
The game show with a difference. Prepare yourself for Lee Evans.
Yeah, have you heard? Michael Jackson's getting back together.
It's fun all the way. This Boxing Day evening on Granada.
The national and world news now on Granada from ITN.
From the studios of ITN, the news and sport with Nicholas Owen and Graham Miller.
Hello, welcome to the programme. The headlines: mystery blast as the tense Japanese embassy siege goes on.
And in sport, horrors in Harare, England collapse against Zimbabwe.
Mystery still surrounds an early morning explosion at the Japanese embassy residence in Peru, where Marxist rebels are holding more than 100 hostages. It's still not clear whether the blast was an accident or deliberately set off by the rebels. Released hostages have said their captors are carrying primed explosives. From Peru, here's Howell Jones.
A flash of light from the ambassador's residence, an explosion which sent troops running for cover. They'd been on a quiet night watch. Now they feared the 9-day siege might be coming to a violent end.
I heard the explosion. It was very loud.
Smoke rose from the ambassador's compound, but there were no further explosions and no explanation of its cause, though the building is surrounded by mines and the Tupac Amaru rebels carry explosives strapped to their bodies. Within hours, the authorities here were dealing with another terror alert. These exclusive ITN pictures show a hand grenade being defused outside a Peruvian Navy building in Lima. The tension of the last few hours is in sharp contrast to the relief felt by the latest hostage to be released. He's a Japanese diplomat, Kenji Hirata. He was taken to hospital, reportedly suffering from dehydration.
While the latest release is being seen as one small positive development, it coincided with a deadly reminder elsewhere of the power of Peruvian terrorism.
Guerrillas claiming to represent the Sendero Luminoso or Shining Path movement killed 6 farm workers in a village in the north of the country. After a violent morning, the scene of the hostage-taking is quiet. The fate of the men trapped within still in the balance. Howell Jones, ITN, Lima.
The family of the Australian nurse murdered in Saudi Arabia say they'll do nothing to help save the 2 accused British nurses who could be publicly executed if found guilty. They are charged with murdering Yvonne Guilford at a hospital in Dhahran. Helen Wright reports.
Yvonne Guilford's family believes Saudi justice must be allowed to run its course. They say if Lucille McLachlan and colleague Deborah Parry are convicted of her murder, they won't intervene to save the British nurses from the Saudi death penalty.
We don't believe that we should interfere in the laws of the country, and the brutal murder of our daughter and sister, I don't believe warrants us going to any extent to claim clemency.
55-year-old Yvonne Guilford was stabbed, battered with a hammer and smothered. Her body was found at this military medical complex. According to friends, Lucille McLachlan's parents can't believe she's been charged in connection with the killing.
Their thoughts are obviously with their daughter at the moment in Saudi Arabia, and also they're worried about how to get her the best possible legal expertise.
British diplomats are also trying to help the women find lawyers. Both are being held by police in Dhahran, and consular officials who've visited them saying they're being treated well and have phoned relatives in Britain. Lucille McLachlan's parents will fly to Saudi once they're assured they can see their daughter. Helen Wright, ITN.
The Deputy Prime Minister Michael Heseltine has brushed off claims that the Conservatives rigged a BBC poll naming John Major Personality of the Year. 4,000 votes for the Prime Minister were disallowed. Mr Heseltine put that down to enthusiasm by party supporters. John Draper reports.
After a difficult 12 months, the Prime Minister winning the BBC Radio Personality of the Year award has delighted the Tories.
23% of the votes went to John Major, the Prime Minister. He's your choice for the Today Personality of the Year.
But some of the gloss has been taken off the Prime Minister's victory, with the BBC revealing that 4,000 votes had to be discounted because some people had phoned in for Mr Major more than once. It follows the row over Tony Blair's nomination for the same award, when the BBC discovered that a Labour official had tried to manipulate a mass phone vote for the opposition leader. The Conservatives accused Labour of cheating then. Today, Labour said the Tories had rigged the Prime Minister's victory. Mr Heseltine dismissed that.
Here you have a Labour Party claiming to be fit to govern this country, so insecure that they need to try to fix a BBC poll to get Tony Blair made the Man of the Year.
The Today programme said it had used electronic methods to monitor the voting. The Conservatives say the result was absolutely fabulous. Labour say the real test of popularity will be the general election. John Draper, ITN.
Opposition leaders in Belgrade have gone ahead with a rally that's been banned by the authorities. Riot police cordoned off the parliament building. The protesters are angry about the decision by the Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic to ignore local elections, which didn't go his way. Germans today remembered the victims of a suicide bomber who detonated 2 hand grenades in a church in Frankfurt on Christmas Eve. Police say the 49-year-old bomber had psychiatric problems. She killed herself and 2 elderly women sitting next to her. And in eastern Malaysia, people have been scrambling for their lives as a violent storm ripped through the area. More than 100 people have been killed and the same number are missing. Hundreds of houses have been swept away. Here, the Police Complaints Authority says police officers should have to declare if they are Freemasons. It says public confidence is undermined by the Masons' secrecy. Police unions say what's good enough for judges and magistrates should be good enough for them. Here's Neil Connery.
The secrecy surrounding Freemasonry is highlighted by today's report. This is a rare appearance before the cameras. But the Police Complaints Authority says it's found no firm evidence of Freemasons abusing their position. They're pressing the Home Affairs Select Committee's inquiry into the issue to recommend a register of Mason officers.
I think in any situation where there is secrecy, members of the public will suspect there is good reason for the secrecy and they will assume the worst. And that's why we think openness will diffuse a lot of the public concern.
But the Police Superintendents Association said today any new measures should include judges and lawyers. They're also concerned about possible abuses of any register.
If it's a public register, then it may well spill over into the private lives of police officers, and this concerns us because clearly you could have people taking revenge.
The Police Complaints Authority hope legislation will be passed whoever wins the general election. Neil Connery, ITN.
Now, with the Boxing Day sports so far, here's Graham Miller.
England look odds-on to lose the second Test match and the series against Zimbabwe after a woeful performance from the batsmen in Harare. They collapsed to 137 for 9 at the close of the first day's play. Here's James Munro.
On a dull morning, Mike Atherton needed to win the toss. He didn't, and after that, nothing went right for England. Nick Knight, the first out, to a loosener from Henry Alonga. From then on in, the batsmen meekly surrendered their wickets. Once again, Mike Atherton disappointed with the bat, making just 13 before falling to Guy Whittle. England continued to give away their wickets, Craig White with a loose drive to leave them on 94 for 6. Only John Crawley kept the scoreboard ticking over, but his 34-run partnership with Robert Croft ended with another loose drive, this time from Croft. Darren Gough scored only 2 before he went for the big heave. Then Mullally offered his wicket without scoring. After a disastrous first day of the second Test, England will now have to battle to save the series. James Munro, ITN Sport.
In football, the leaders of the English Premiership, Liverpool, have come from a goal down against Leicester at Anfield. Stan Collymore with the equaliser. Newcastle's title hopes, though, are fading fast. They're a goal down to Blackburn. Second place Arsenal kick off at Sheffield Wednesday in an hour's time. David Beckham gave Manchester United the lead at Nottingham Forest. Nicky Butt made it 2-0 to United. It's now 4. Forest stay rooted to the bottom. Gianfranco Zola scored twice as Chelsea stunned fourth-placed Aston Villa at Villa Park. Juninho also got a couple as Middlesbrough lead Everton 4-2 at the Riverside. They were calling it the feast of Stefan at White Hart Lane. Stefan Iversen, to be precise. Tottenham's new Norwegian striker was on target twice. This the second as Spurs beat Southampton 3-1 in a 12 o'clock kick-off at White Hart Lane. Brian Dean opened their scoring for Leeds in an amazing game at home to Coventry. Dean Huckabee equalised for the Sky Blues, then Dion Dublin and Gary McAllister from the penalty spot both scored for Coventry inside a couple of minutes. In Scotland, Rangers, 14 points clear of Celtic before kick-off, had no trouble against bottom club Wraith. Richard Gough got the first, Paul Gascoigne the second at Ibrox. The latest I have is 4-0. Celtic play Aberdeen later tonight. Racing, the Grey Horse, one man, has won the King George VI chase for the second time. His only real challenger, Mr Mulligan, fell at the final fence to give Richard Dunwoody an easy